Welcome to the Gen Z Show. I'm your host, James McLamb, the founder of Generation Ziegler, and I'm joined today by two good friends. I've got Caden from North Carolina. Say hello, Caden.
Hey y'all, how you doing?
And I've got Annie from the great state of Texas. How you doing, Annie?
Yes, sir. I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Guys, we all know that one of the major issues facing Generation Z and really all generations throughout time when they're young, especially, is bullying. It is a major issue. It is a major problem. And today's guest has dedicated his life to helping young people and adults, for that matter, equipping them with the tools that they need to be bully proof. Rich Grogan is our guest today. He is really an outstanding guest. I just cannot tell you how much we enjoyed this podcast and what we learned. Guys, I'm going to ask you real quickly to give me, Annie, what was a takeaway from this interview that we had? Something that stuck out to you from this interview?
I think the biggest thing from this interview for me was just the realization that Mr. Grogan shared with us about the bully in your mind is far greater than any bully that you could physically face. And that's something that as youth and as Gen Zers, we have to go through every day, but it's not something that's talked about every day. So I appreciated that he shared that light on that topic.
I agree with that. Caden, how about yourself? What did you gather from this time with Grogan?
Very similar that he hits on is, it's going to be about, your internal and how to deal with that. And so that's kind of what my more takeaway was how to deal with this, how to push through this bullying to get yourself back on the right track.
Listen, community, you're going to love this interview. It's got a lot of depth on it. And this is one that you're going to need to bookmark so that you can come back to it. If you cannot digest everything that we have in this episode, you need to bookmark where you have stopped looking and then come back and relook at it. You need to listen to it. This one is going to be, you're going to see this in a lot of different formats because there was so much depth in what we have. So I want to go ahead and introduce our audience to our guest today, Mr. Rich Grogan. Rich, welcome to the Gen Z Show. I'm excited to be able to meet you. We're both Ziegler Legacy trainers, and we connected through the Facebook group page there, where I saw you post something, and the topic that you posted was about bullying, which is a topic that those who are familiar with Generation Z know that this is something that we really focus on, that we really want to equip our youth to be able to help. So thank you and welcome to our show. Thank you for being our guest.
Absolutely. I'm honored beyond words. Anything with the Ziegler family touches my heart and gives me goosebumps like a little kid here. Just an opportunity to share with other like-minded people and individuals, especially the younger, the Gen Zs. And my goal is to empower them, number one, with hope, and then the self-confidence to believe in themselves. And kind of our mission, our purpose and passion, if you will, is to provide hope and the self-confidence for kids, teens, parents, adults to believe in themselves, to overcome their fears, battle through their challenges, to stand out in the crowd with good manners, discipline, and respect, and then to stand up to any bully they face, both real and in their minds. And a big thing of what I focus on with what we do at our martial arts academy here and with the podcast, I've got a book coming out and countless speeches, is the empowerment part, because I believe in my heart, Bully Proof, which is one of our brands, is about empowering you to defeat the bully within. Because if you're strong inside, you're not going to allow the outside negativity to get inside. And of course, a bully, doesn't matter if it's a little kid in kindergarten or trying to overpower somebody just to feel better about themselves, or in the adult world or college or anywhere else, the bully wants to attack your weakest point. Your weakest point is in your mind. And that what I mean by that is your weakest point is all your limiting beliefs, your self-doubt, seeds that someone has planted years and years ago that get you where I guess make you where you don't feel like you're the gift from God that you were born to be.
Repeat that again so that our audience can catch it. You said that they attack your mind, your weakest points. Repeat that again, because that was powerful. That kind of caught me off guard when you said that. I was like, I should have been writing that down.
Well, and that's where I'm going to try and set myself and what we've done aside with what I call it bully proof instead of bully prevention. And the reason I say that, for, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, I would always say bully prevention. But then I got to realizing that bullying's been around since Cain and Abel. And that didn't turn out very well for either one, Cain or Abel, right? You know, Abel gets killed and then Cain has a life of misery after that. And bullying has been around since then, and it's not going anywhere, especially with social media, where and Gen Zers, you know more about social media than I'll ever know. Folks can hide behind the keyboard and or their phones and type up all kinds of negative, yucky stuff with no repercussions or really no consequences for their actions. So instead of saying bully prevention, I'm going with a bully proof, and that is empowering from the inside out the person to believe in themselves, to overcome their fears or limiting beliefs, to stand out in the crowd. What do you mean by stand out in the crowd? Is oftentimes, I think another way we bully ourselves is trying everybody fit in that proverbial round hole. We just try to be like everybody else, even though we're born unique. You know, there's 7.7 billion people on the planet, but oftentimes we try and be like everyone else as opposed to being the gift that we were created to be. But to answer your question about the mind, our mind, unfortunately, is well, so powerful. It's our greatest strength, but at the same time, it's our greatest weakness. And it's our greatest strength because the unlimited capabilities and capacity of what the mind can do. But on the other side, our mind hangs on to, it seems like the limiting beliefs, and I call it seeds in the garden. You know, you plant a seed, whatever you plant, if you harvest it, you nurture it and give it water, sunshine, and everything you need to do, it's going to grow into something. So if you want strawberries, you've got to plant strawberry seeds. It would be ridiculous to think if you planted onion seeds that you were going to get strawberries on the other end. Well, the same thing, if you plant negativity or allow negative thoughts to harvest in your mind, well, what you see, what you think, what you believe is what you're going to produce. And that brings up, I always try and make sure I get this in, my favorite Zig Ziglar quote, which also happens to be Tom Ziglar's favorite quote, so that makes me feel good, is you are where you are and what you are by what has gone into your mind. You can change where you are and what you are by changing what goes into your mind. And
My favorite too. So I just want to say that.
What's that, buddy?
I said that's my favorite too. So
oh yes, good company there, man. So anyway, to answer your question, sometimes I get long-winded in my answers there. Everything I try and base it on is my own personal beliefs, and I've been in martial arts since 1979, and I've been teaching for over 35 years now. And I try and base everything on not only my personal experience, but what I've learned, what I've gone through, and what I've seen the transformation in kids along the way here. And I know for me and friends out there that are listening and watching, you post something and you get 100 likes, but yet you get one negative comment. And oftentimes our mind goes right to that negative comment. Now, being humble, you think, well, maybe I could have done something different. What could I have done different to connect with that person? And we block out the 100 or even thousands of positives and likes, and yet we focus on the negative. And that's what I mean by the bullies. And they're bullies because they're attempting to gain power over you in your weakest area, which is the mind.
That's powerful.
Yeah. I don't know if I can speak for Caden, but definitely for myself, being a young person, a lot of times I feel like it's overlooked that the bullies that are in our minds are just as prevalent as those that are in real life. I'm curious, with your experience with youth and kids that come into your martial art studio, do you think that it's easier for them to challenge the bullies that are in their mind or that are in real life?
Well, for me personally, and what I've seen in the thousands of kids I've got an opportunity to talk to, and then parents along the way as well. The bully in our mind, I believe in my heart, is the meanest, nastiest, scariest, most ruthless Goliath bully we'll ever face, because the bully in our mind knows our deep, dark secrets. They know who we are. And then also that's our limiting beliefs. And the unfortunate part is that, and Zig would always talk about the amount of times a kid is told no. Well, that plants a seed in their mind. Now, obviously, you want to keep kids safe. You know, when they go to run out in front of cars, you don't want that to happen. But what I've tried to do with my own kids and kids here, and I'm blessed to be able to go around to schools, middle schools, colleges. I've got a speech coming up next Friday at a local university, and it's actually for the pharmacy department for the teachers and professors. And I'm going to talk about the be, do, have, but it's all going to circle back around to, you know, what's in here. But that bully in our mind, as I mentioned, is the biggest, meanest one. So we try and plant seeds of positivity, positive thoughts, positive affirmations. I believe in me. I'm going to do my very best in order to become my very best. And I'm a big believer in how you defeat that bully is through, well, the two things we evaluate on at the academy is attitude and effort. That's it. You have the right attitude to perform at your very best. Say, I'm really going to do this. I'm going to do my very, very best. So you pretty much psych yourself up, if you will, in your mind. And the effort is actually applying that positive attitude toward your best effort. And by doing that, that builds that self-respect. And self-respect is kind of like your bully-proof armor, or if you will, your armor of God that is built from the inside out. Because if you don't have no respect for yourself, then it's very difficult to respect anybody else. And then, of course, it goes back and forth. If you don't respect anybody else, then you think, why in the world should I be respectful? Nobody's respectful to me. So it's kind of a circular pattern there. But that's, I believe it's an inside out job, if you will. I've heard it said before that think of the Titanic, it weighs approximately 52 tons, 52,000 tons, excuse me, 50,000 tons, and it's floating on water and it's fine. But yet that water gets inside, what happens? It sinks. Well, the same thing with negativity in our mind. It gets in there, and those seeds, they grow some huge roots, and they continue to grow, and unless we dig those up. And the bad thing, we try and plant positive seeds, but the weeds of society, think about a weed will pop up anywhere. I did a video with my son not too long ago, and here at the academy, I asked him, I said, Austin, did you plant those weeds that are growing out in the middle of the driveway? Where'd they come from? Did you plant those? And he goes, well, heck no, Dad. What are you talking about? I said, well, how'd they grow? He goes, I don't know. And that was kind of the whole tie-in. Weeds will just pop up anywhere. They're ruthless. They're relentless. Well, the same thing with bullies that try and attack our minds. They just pop up anywhere and everywhere. Did that kind of answer the question in a long, drawn-out answer?
Yes, that's exactly what I was curious about. Like I said, it's easily forgotten how that is all one big circle of, could be a really good cycle or a really bad cycle real quick. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for the question.
I love that. I love that analogy of the Titanic on that. It sinks, it's fine, but once something gets into it, it's what draws it down. Knowing these two like to speak and train other young people, I see a story of them in their future training and speaking coming up, because I saw both of their eyes kind of pop up going, ooh, I need to write that down. I need to remember that.
Awesome.
Yeah, the analogies and metaphors really stick with us.
I'm nothing but a big kid at heart, and I love stories as well. And that's why I connected so well with Zig, even though I'm ashamed to say, I often say this kind of jokingly, but it's the truth. I didn't know I could read until 2012 because I chose not to read, simply because the folks I was surrounding myself with, and it's not that they were bad in any way, shape, or form, but I began to find out that they were more anchors in my life, kind of holding me back, as opposed to engines. You think about an engine, it drives, it pushes you forward, where anchors are like a weight on your leg, and they're holding you back. And we have to be able to cut that tie, so to speak, or the crabs in the bucket, or the flea trainer jump out of the jar, any of those analogies, in order to be who we were born to be. I always kind of felt I was on an island by myself, didn't know where to turn, didn't know what to do. And I happened to tune in just to this, it was a martial arts webinar, and the lady conducting it she quoted this Zig Ziglar guy 3 or 4 times. I'm like, oh, I got to write this down. Who is this guy? And then she went on to say it would happen to be the week that he passed away. And I'm like, oh gosh, well, this is great. So I started looking it up, and the first book I actually bought was an Audible book. It was Better Than Good, and I believe it was the last one that Zig narrated on his own. It's kind of funny. I pick my kids up from school, and we always rock out on the radio, and I've got this CD in of Zig, and is really kind of, it was really slowly narrated, and better than good for like the first whole 5-hour disc or whatever it was. And my kids are like, Dad, what the heck is this? And I said, it's good for you. You need to listen to it. So I'm getting on to them about listening, knowing I need it more than anybody. But anyway, I share that. I didn't know I could read I was in my mid 40s at that time. So what am I going to learn? Well, I'm 40 something years old. And that's why my favorite quote is, you are where you are and what you are by what goes in your mind. And I share that in every single presentation, simply because I want the younger generation to plant the right seeds that you want, but at the same time, be very careful and cautious of the weeds that you allow in. Because if we've ever planted a garden, we know weeds go to town and suffocate those positive seeds.
That's powerful. That's really good on what's going on. Okay, so these guys want to help their fellow classmates, their friends. How can they identify someone who is being bullied so that they can maybe stand alongside them or provide them support? What are some of the signs of someone who has been bullied that you have seen?
Sure. Well, and the online, it's very difficult to tell because everybody hides behind filters, right? You know, everybody's profile is sunshine and rainbows, and everybody's got the glory life. With online, to connect with your friends, just ask the personal question, the deep questions. Hey, you don't have to be tough in front of me. Is everything going okay? Is there anything you want to share with me? Just be open to that, because most people, and I know I've done this in the past, and sometimes I got to watch that, but you want to be your best, and you don't want to be associated with, lack of a better word, someone that whines all the time or plays the victim card. So what we do to separate ourselves from that, we try and put on this armor like nothing can penetrate us, which you need the armor on, but oftentimes we become in the process of trying to be tough, we become fake, and we don't allow our friends to get in to help us, because we think if we're vulnerable, who are they going to turn to? But oftentimes it's a collective effort. A speech I give often to athletic teams is the power of the fist, and I talk about individual fingers. Be like, if I went to punch and break a board with my fingers like this, I would probably end up breaking every finger. Well, individuals working independently aren't very strong, but collectively we curled together. The thumb, I call the thumb the leader, wraps it nice and tight. Now we got strength. Now we got power. Now we got unity. Now we've got something, but everybody's collectively working together to better one another. Each finger is independently working to help one another. And the thumb is the leader, because if the thumb isn't in charge, then the whole thing comes apart here, and then we're back to individuals. So we got to roll it in together. So to answer that question, you have to dig a little bit with your friends. Notice a pattern of behaviors. If they're sending out, random text messages or Snapchats just saying hi, 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 oftentimes that hi is a cry for help. They're wanting, because what happens the first time they send it out, they'll send it out to 10 people. We'll just say 10, and they'll get 10 replies back. Hey, is everything okay? Hey, is everything okay? And they need that. It's a dopamine hit. I feel good. People care about me. Well, I send it out tomorrow to the same 10 people. I only get 5 replies back. I send it out the next day. I only get 2 and then 1 reply back, because people are like, oh, they're just whining and complaining again. But that's a cry for help. And that's where a friend needs to step in. And that's why I talk about standing out in the crowd and say, hey, what's really going on? You can share it with me and do your best to help. Now, with that being said, my daughter's been very good at this, but also very vulnerable with this. She's 17 years old. You can only help someone who wants help, but then you also have to know your limitations. If you're not a licensed therapist or counselor, there are certain things you can and cannot do. So help them to the degree you can. But my daughter's even reached out to her friend's parents before, which was a huge step. Now the girl that she helped was mad at her for talking to her mom about it at first, but then the girl got the help she needed, and of course she was very grateful and thankful. So I always like to caution that we can only do what we can do, and if it's beyond our means, do what you can, but reach out to the parents and try and get the help that they may need. Did that kind of help with the question?
That is such a
Yes.
real example. Like that happens on a weekly basis with people that I know, just like you said, sending out those texts and having subtle cries for help that people don't always reach out to. So thank you for sharing.
I definitely get those all the time. And, I definitely have been put in those situations where it's become way beyond where I know how to help. But like in the recent year, and 365 days ago, I mean, I feel like our motivation and our drive for everything has kind of just diminished because of COVID. So I mean, how have you seen, this new virtual world that we live in? How is bullying being prevalent? I mean, we haven't really had too much to talk bad about each other, but I mean, it's still being out there. We're now hiding behind a screen because that's all we have. So how have you kind of seen, this new shift from a in-person world to a virtual world in terms of bullying?
That's a great, every one of the questions are great. And please, as I'm talking, if you think up other ones that lead off of this, because it all ties in together. Let's see how to put this. It kind of re-solidifies what with the Grogan's Bully Proof brand, what I've been doing over the past, I don't know, I guess nearly a decade now, is that bully within. That's the one we have to defeat. Not necessarily, not bullies are real in real life. You know, the names they call us, and and I always say, yes, the physical hurts more at the moment, but it's the mental scars that last a lifetime. You know, I've had my share of getting beat up and all these other things. I've got a book coming out. I'm talking about it, but it's those heal, scars heal, bruises heal, and this and that. And there's still a little fear, but the ones in your mind are the ones that don't heal. I give an example oftentimes of colleges and universities. I'll pull out $100 bill, and it's a brand new, fresh, crisp one. I'll go to the bank and get one. And I say, what's the value of this thing? And everybody's $100. And I said, what if I do this? And actually, I talk about this in my book coming out, Bully Proof. I crinkle it all up, I throw it on the ground, I stomp on it, and if I'm outside, it's gross, but I even spit on it. And then I pull it back up, and I said, oh gosh, what's the value of this? And I go, well, it's still $100. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point. It doesn't matter what's been done to the $100 bill, what's happened to the $100 bill, the value is still the same. So it doesn't matter what's happened or said, done to you, your value doesn't change. However, what does change is that $100 bill is never as crisp and clean as it once was. It's all crinkled and stepped on and everything else. And you can work to iron it out, so to speak. But a lot of times those scars are going to be there forever. So it's those mental scars we have to worry about. And with where we're at now, we're not having as much physical bullying, simply because we're physically, we're not around each other as much. But that doesn't mean it's going to go away. As soon as we're back around, that's going to pick back up. But as I kind of started off talking about, it's the mind that the bully really goes after. Sort of like I teach women self-empowerment workshops. And with that, it's, I used to call them rape awareness and rape prevention and all that, but I've gotten rid of all that stuff now. It's empowerment, because in the act of a predator attacking someone, it's not about the rape or the sex, it's about the power. And the same thing with a bully. It's about the power of being able to either manipulate or overpower someone to put them down, to, in their mind, put them higher on a pedestal here, because they feel their self-esteem and self-respect is so low, and their kind of warped mind, forgive me, but that's what it is. They think if I put somebody else down, then therefore I'm above this person, and that's going to make me feel better. Well, it never does. It's kind of an addiction. It's a never-ending quest. They got to have more. They got to have more. And that's why most bullying starts off verbal or name calling. And then if it's not stopped there, that's when it escalates to the next level. Because you know what? Oh, I'm no longer getting the rise out of the person anymore by calling them a bad name. I've got to take it up a notch. So this digital world we're in right now, where everybody, and I say addicted to our devices, and if the first thing you do in the morning, if you were or you took a drink, the last thing you did before you go to bed was take a drink, well, you'd be labeled an alcoholic, right? Because you crave that, the first thing, last thing. Well, heck, we can't go to another room in our house without having our cell phone in our hand. We can't leave anywhere. We leave the house, we're like, oh, what? My cell phone. And that, unfortunately, is the world that the Gen Zers, and I've got a 12-year-old son, have grown up in. So you've not known any life outside of that. Well, I'll be 51 here in a few months. I grew up life before that, the rotary phone, right? And I sure as heck wasn't carrying that around. But yet I've become addicted to my phone because, what, again, first thing I look at in the morning, last thing I look at night. And I say this, and the more I talk about it, the more it helps me remember, dang, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I need to put that thing away. But it's just the reality of things. So that is an easy entrance into our mind, and that's the portal, if you will. And that's why I mentioned we've got to build up in our mind what we believe and what we know about ourselves, and not value the opinion of someone who doesn't know us over what we do know about ourselves.
I think you hit on something strong there, in that the way that technology has made it easier for people to get into our minds than ever before. I'm the same age. Well, I'm a year older, actually. I'll be 52 in just a let me see, 2 days. Just 2 days.
Well,
Just
happy
a
early
little over a
birthday.
week.
You wear it well, sir. It must be the power
Yeah.
of God there.
I'll be sending Caden and Annie my birthday dates and my wish list, Amazon wish list, pretty soon. Just wanted to point that out to you guys.
You got to put it out there. If you don't put it out there, they don't know.
That's
Hey, I
right.
might put it into show notes so that our no.
That's even better. Man. All right.
But you know, I grew up in a relatively small rural area, and we knew each other from there were people that I went to school with, and Caden and Annie probably have a similar experience. I know Caden does. That I went to school with, from kindergarten on the way to high school, and two that I went to college with. So we were together for 17 years of our academic. So we knew each other. So there wasn't as bullying was not as prevalent in the mind because we had grown up with each other. And a large part of it is because you were afraid to say too much because you knew later that day your mom and dad were going to pick up that rotary phone and call each other and say, hey, Rich is picking on James at school. You got to stop this or we're going to have a call. We didn't have to deal with it as much, but you hit on something great is that technology it gives youth an opportunity to be vulnerable in a space that they may need more caution. And I don't think we're giving them, and you guys can pipe in on this, see if I'm right. I don't think we're giving them the tools they need to really function properly on this new technology, that they're almost too vulnerable on what they put out. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I getting off track?
I definitely agree. I think there's a fine line that we don't understand where that line is. Like you said, there's too much vulnerability and there's not enough, and you got to kind of figure it out on your own. And to your point, there's no tools to tell you what's right and what's wrong. And in all honesty, our parents that are teaching us all this great stuff, they've never had to go through this. They can't give us wisdom on this because they don't know what the right answer is. So I definitely agree with that.
And so you got those hawks, they're looking for prey on technology, and they see that vulnerable kid and they just are diving in on them. And I just don't think they're really equipped to properly handle that.
I keep referring to the book. I just sent it to the editor today. It's called Bully Proof, and it's me as a kid meeting me as Master Grogan 40 years later, and we go on a journey together to become bully proof. And the stories in the book are all real life stories that almost every one of them happened to me or happened to my own kids or kids in the academy. So it's I guess it's a true story, but I've built in, I guess, a little bit of fiction to tie it all in together there. But I grew up on a farm, and so I was a farm boy. I was on the outskirts of town, and I remember being bullied as a farm boy, and not that I didn't take a bath going in, but it's like, oh, here comes the farm boy, because I had horses and cows, and so that was all part of the process as well. But I share in there that me, Master Grogan, the older guy, talking to the younger guy, and that was probably the hardest part about the book. I was trying to talk as me now as according to me when I was younger. So it's been a process, but I'm really happy about where the book came or where the book's at now. But it was when I was a kid at 3:30 when I got home from school, the bullying stopped, and if a bully would have called, my mom would answer the phone and I wouldn't have to talk to him. Well, nowadays the bullying is nonstop. So you're constantly in a stress-induced cortisol state of panic because it's all the time. And there's one of the first chapters of the book talks about the phone constantly dinging, ding, 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 and the kid's name in the book, me as a younger kid was named Logan. Me as an older guy is Master Joe. I don't have any affiliation with a Logan and a Joe, so I chose those names. But Logan's mom says, "Who's texting you?" And Logan tries to hide the phone, as most kids would do, because they try and solve the problems on their own. And then the mom sees the text and she sees all this horrible stuff coming in, and then a video of what happened earlier in the day. So with our youth, they're so good at putting up filters, like I mentioned before, about everything is fine, everything is fine, everything is fine, because they don't want just like when I was bullied, I hid it from my parents because I was supposed to be tougher than that. Dad's a Vietnam vet. He's 101st Airborne, so he's a macho tough guy. Well, I can't let him know that his son's being bullied, right? There's just no way. I should do something about it. But so we hide it. Well, kids hide it even more now. But the problem is, as I mentioned, at 3:30, at least I got a break. So my body got to relax a little bit. Nowadays, it's nonstop. And cortisol is that stress chemical that flushes through your veins to give you that fight or flight. You're all stressed out. Now, it's important. Back in the old days, if you were walking by and a saber-toothed tiger jumped out, you need that cortisol rush to give you that extra energy to outrun the saber-toothed tiger or defend yourself against it. But then it was flushed out. Nowadays, the cortisol is never flushed out because we're in a constant state of panic and stress and fear. And what happens when cortisol is flushing through your system? Your immune system shuts down, your digestive system shuts down, your growth system shuts down, all the systems shut down, and that's due to give you that extra strength to fight that saber-tooth tiger. but it's also meant to be flushed out. And of course, when you flush it out, that's when you get the shakes. Well, nowadays we're in this constant panic state. And therefore, that's why our digestive systems, immune systems, and our stress level, that's why anxiety and depression are going through the roof, anger management. And obviously, the thing that concerns me the most is the suicide rates in teens and the Zs and the millennials continues to escalate because people think there's something wrong with me. I'm the only one experiencing this and nobody else is, because I see on, James's profile, he's got all likes, he's all happy, he's doing all these vacations. So it's got to be just me. Well, there's where the problem is. It's not. Some people are just better at camouflaging it than others.
Yeah, and if
So-
adults are struggling with that as well, youth are. And adults do struggle with that comparison. And
We grew up without the devices.
right.
So kids, that's their world. That's all they've ever known.